So have you ever heard somebody say that you or someone else maybe has a wonderful command of the English language? Have you heard that phrase? It usually means that somebody has a very broad vocabulary and can express themselves clearly and maybe express an idea in a lot of different ways so that it can be understood. And that's quite a gift, isn't it? It's particularly today when so many things can be misunderstood or a misunderstanding can happen. I know I've heard a lot of doozies over the past few weeks and months where people get really upset and irate about something and I go, what's the big deal? Or I get upset and irate about something and somebody says, what's the big deal, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Not the big deal part of it, but the what are you saying part of it. What are you saying? And we know that our words have power, don't we? We know that our words have power, whether it's our thoughts, our self-talk, or our spoken word. They can offer, as Craig was singing in his song, they can be healing, or they can be poisonous. They can bring comfort, or they can hurt and harm. They can destroy relationships, or they can build them up. They can bring that comfort to us. As the Bible says, from the mouth proceeds blessing and curse. Blessing and curse. And we are capable of both of those, aren't we? Yeah, we're all capable of both of those. But do we really know what we're saying? We've talked about those 60,000 thoughts that we have every day. Are we really aware of 60,000 thoughts a day? Probably not. Probably not. A lot of them are fleeting or short-lived and just things that are going on in the background that we're just not aware of. And then we also know that body language accounts for about 65% of our communication. You know, sometimes I'm just cold, but that might be perceived as I'm not listening to you, right? I'm hearing you, but I'm not listening. So we know these different forms of body language also are a tool of communication, And another is the choices that we make, isn't it? Another way we communicate is our choices. As Emerson says, I cannot hear your words, your actions are speaking too loudly. Your actions are speaking too loudly. So those are the ways that we typically communicate. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm really enjoying our book of the month, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And the author is Susan Jeffers, and she talks about moving our thinking from pain to power. From pain to power. And her premise is that we hold our fear either in power or we hold it in pain. And think of the example of jumping out of an airplane. Imagine the person that is standing at the door, ready to go, all excited. Yeehaw, let's go. This is going to be awesome. Is it my turn yet? They're taking any fear they may have, any butterflies of that jump, and using it in their excitement and being empowered by it, aren't they? As opposed to the person that's sitting back holding onto the seat, paralyzed in fear, right? Wanting to be the last one and maybe reconsidering the whole idea that sounded really good on the ground but sounds really horrible right now. And they may do the jump and they may land, but they may have that story of terror that they tell for the rest of their lives, right? That's the different ways that we can hold the idea of our pain or our power, our pain or our power. Ernest Holmes, he's the founder of the Centers for Spiritual Living and also the author of The Science of Mind. And he talks about the power of our words. And he says, let us know that our word does not return to us void. It is the instrument through which the presence and the power of God acts. Our word, spoken or thought, is the instrument through which God works in our lives. That's kind of powerful, isn't it? So from that perspective, let's look at what Jeffers says about how we can move from that idea of pain to power through using our words, through working with our vocabulary, if you will. Her examples from the book include changing I can't to I won't. I should to I could. It's not my fault. I'm responsible. It's a problem. My battery died. Dead battery. It's a problem. No, it's an opportunity to project my voice. Oh, we're going to do it now? Okay. Keep talking. I'm never satisfied. I want to learn and grow. Life's a struggle. Life's an adventure. I hope. I know. If only next time. What? Nope, it's dead. Something else. Okay, handheld, please. You can hear me? Okay. All right, good enough. Life's a struggle. Life's an adventure. What will I do? I know I can handle it. It's terrible. It's a learning experience. You can feel the difference in the shift in the energy of those words. And without the distractions, you could probably have noticed that even in my voice and my facial expression, I felt the changes in that. And our words do influence our body. We've got that whole mind-body connection thing going on, don't we? There's a thing in psychology that says if you're feeling depressed, don't look down, look up. It's much more difficult to feel sad when you're looking up, lifting up. So our words do impact us. So what words are you speaking to yourself all day long? What words are you speaking to others all day long? What is your body language saying to others all day long? Are you open and welcoming and kind, and are you threatening and unapproachable and fearful? When we really begin to understand that our words are the instrument through which the presence and power of God acts, when we really begin to get that, we can understand the saying that David James Lee says, be mindful of your self-talk. It's a conversation with the universe. It is a conversation with God. It is a conversation with God. We know that God and the law are the same thing. We just teach them separate in science of mind so that we can understand that one is the way and one is God. And it is one. And that's what works through us. So how can we make all of our conversations more powerful, more empowering, if in fact this is how Spirit works through us? Don't we want those to be more empowering? Well, first, like everything, we have to become aware of what we're thinking. We have to clean up that vocabulary. We have to move from the pain to the power words. We have to do that work. Ancient wisdom and spiritual philosophy, of course, has been telling us forever of our magnificence, has it not? We are made in the likeness and image of the divine, likeness and image of God, of the God stuff. The one substance that exists is what we're made of. It is done unto us as we believe. What we reap, we sow. What seeds we plant into law is what we see reflected back to us. That's pretty magnificent in the way that life works, isn't it? Just those three little sayings. We are magnificent creations of the divine. And we have power in our words, thoughts, and actions. We create the experiences of our world through that. And we really do have the choice to change our thinking and watch it change our lives. One of the most spiritual technologies that we teach in the science of mind is, of course, our spiritual mind treatment. Now, many of you know how we teach treatment, and you've practiced it, and you've had good results from it, right? Yeah. Would you like to have better results? Well, we've been talking all month about how mindfulness works in spiritual mind treatment. In our whole theme here, that is mindfulness for Mavericks. That's been our monthly theme. And the words and the beliefs that are back of the words that we say is what is so important for us. What we choose, the language of our prayers, the language of our prayer requests, Sometimes I see prayer requests that are confusing because I'm not sure really what the outcome is that we want, because there's so much negativity in the request. It's like, wow, I'm not sure how to pray for that to get what result I think they might want, but what do they want? It's unclear. So we have to be clear in that. And it's the way that prayer works is that we are accepting in the moment that what we are praying about already exists in the unity and the wholeness and the one in which we exist now. We could not have the desire that we have if it did not already exist as a thought in the unformed substance of the whole. It's already there. It's just waiting our permission to come forward into form. It's just waiting our permission to come forward into form. I read an article in an older 1981 Science of Mind magazine. Doesn't give me the author, but it was predicting our future. And it was just a really interesting article. It starts off saying, 100 years ago, visionaries in the transportation business anticipated that one of the greatest forthcoming problems would be how to dispose of the mountains of manure that would be building up in the streets. Oh my gosh, from all of the goods and services that were moved through horses, wagons. People were being moved and transported by horses. They were focused on the problem. How do we get rid of this manure? They weren't focused on expansion. They had no idea that there was anything that could come about like a combustion engine and manufacturing and automobiles, and there would be no horse manure in the streets anymore. They couldn't see that, because they were focused on the problem of today. We get focused on the problem of today and shut down the expansion of spirit through us. The article goes on to say, are we today convinced that the world is in a hopeless mess? That our problems are insurmountable, that this time we are doomed? Well, suppose in 50 years we harness the infinite energy of cosmic rays. What if techniques of mental birth control lead to stabilized global population? Might we develop a microorganism that eats pollution, excretes high-octane gasoline, and turns into food when it dies? Will a universal vaccine eliminate illness? Will a transformed humanity living consciously in love rather than unconsciously in fear regard war and crime as incredibly historical curiosities? Perhaps then, instead of our feeling a dreary collective pessimism, we should consider that our most glorious optimism about the future is not glorious enough. Isn't that a wonderful perspective? Yeah. What are we thinking about? What are we thinking about? So as I said, it's in our prayer, it is the difference in focusing on the problem. I have an illness, I have lack of prosperity, I have lack of love in my life or a relationship, I don't have a job, my career is awful, horse manure, right? We don't focus on that stuff. We have to focus on that subtle difference and the opposite of that. We focus on the opposite of that. Because when we are directing universal law in our life, our word is the instrument through which the power and presence of God acts. We have to be clear. We don't want to focus on the manure. We don't want more manure. Right? We want the good stuff. We want the good to manifest in our life. So that's what our prayer is about, manifesting the good. Sometimes, however, it seems like that what we are doing is telling universal law what the limits in our life need to be. Right? What the limits need to be. And it sounds a little crazy, I know, but sometimes that's what we're doing. Take the example of prosperity. Anybody looking for a little more prosperity, abundance, cash, wealth? And yeah, a couple of us. Yeah, okay, good. So let's talk about that. What if we really got serious about it? What would it take? I mean, we believe that we live in an abundant universe, that Spirit is generous and giving. So where is it? Where is it? What would we need to change in our thinking to allow that to express in our lives? What have I told the universe and my thoughts, words, and actions that are putting a limit on the flow of good to me? Now that's one of those science of mind questions that we go, no, it's not me, it's everything else out there. My job doesn't pay enough. They don't appreciate me enough. I haven't won the lottery yet. We want to push it all out there, but really the tough question is, where am I putting that governor to limit my life? You've heard of governors on cars. I think it's U-Hauls that have that little thing on the back that says this is limited to 50 miles, 55 miles an hour or something. They put something on the engine that keeps it from going faster, right? What have you put on to retain your speed, to slow you down in the manifestation of the good in your life? What's the governor that you've put in? What's the limitation that you've said? We need to know what it is we want, right? Let's say it's $1 million, cash and assets, investments and all that. I'd be happy if I had $1 million. What does that look like? Well, we say that over here, but do we really believe it over here that it's possible? Do we look around our life and go, I don't have any resource for that. I'll never get there with my salary and my income. I don't have any rich aunts and uncles that are going to pass anytime soon and leave that to me. So we've got this conflict of belief that says, I really, really want this, but I don't see any possible way of getting it. And we forget that we live in a field of infinite possibilities. But we have to get these things aligned in order for that limitation to go away. That's what the limitation is in our life, is that belief that says, but I don't see how. I don't see how. How many times has a miracle happened in your life when you didn't see any how it could happen? And then it happened. How many times did the manure actually just disappear on its own because something else showed up? Right? That's the belief in possibility. That's the belief in possibility we have to get ourselves to in order to allow these limited thoughts that we've had in the past to go away. It's just the way things are. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's the beautiful thing about this book, that she keeps saying that. She's like, yeah, I think like Pollyanna. So what? Why would I want to think negatively? Why would anybody? Why would anybody? So once we get clear on that idea and we can identify the resistance that we have, the resistance is the limiting thoughts. Yeah, but. Anytime you say, yeah, but, that's when we know we're experiencing a limiting thought. Whatever that subconscious belief, whatever that limiting belief is, that is what's being manifested in your life. All we have to do is look around our lives. If we are trying to create a relationship, a job, a more financial flow, whatever it is, and it's not showing up, there's something in the way called limiting belief that we've got to identify. It's a resistance. We have to identify it and heal it. We have to identify it and heal it. And I like to call this next idea, which is cleaning up our language, the power of our words, I call it catch and release. Have any fishermen in the room? You ever done that? Catch and release? You have to send them back if they're small or too big, right? Or you have a limit on how many you can take out of the lake. And you catch and you release. Well, the same is true of our thoughts. When we can begin to catch those negative thoughts, those limiting thoughts, and release them, catch and release, then we can begin to replace those with the more empowering thoughts, those more powerful thoughts like what Susan Jeffers gave us in her book. Now, some of these might be, well, my job doesn't pay enough, so I'll never be able to have enough income. That's a limiting thought, right? Because we know anything's possible. That paycheck is not the only source of income available to us. There's a multitude of sources available to us. There's never enough. Everything's too expensive. I'll never be able to have that. Those are the limiting thoughts. It may be not yet, but it doesn't mean never. It doesn't mean never. And Esther Hicks, the lady that does the Abraham stuff, her book, Money and the Law of Attraction, she says, each and every component that makes up your life experience is drawn to you by the powerful law of attraction's response to your thoughts, to the thoughts you think and the story you tell about your life. Your money, your financial assets, your body's state of wellness, clarity, flexibility, size, and shape, your work environment, how you are treated, work satisfaction, and rewards. Indeed, the very happiness of your life experience in general is all happening because of the story that you tell. The power of our words. The story through which God acts to manifest our life. What story are we telling? It's a simple process, but it's not always easy, is it? We can change our words. We can change our thinking. We know that. We've done it in certain areas of our lives. But I would bet there's an area of your life, I know there's an area of my life, where we want to see additional growth and expansion. It's like Holmes said in that idea that we keep growing. We're not ever done. You just hit these little plateaus and then you grow some more, right? You grow some more. That's what we're here to do. So it is to continue that growing and to allow Spirit to manifest through us. To change our thinking, it takes patience. It takes spiritual discipline. It doesn't usually happen overnight. We just have to stick with it until one day we realize, oh, that doesn't hurt anymore. Oh, I've got more than enough money left over this month. Oh, wow, I'm dating some great people now. Oh, hey, I've got a great job. How did that happen? Right? It happens. Ernest Holmes says in The Science of Mind, God's creative power of mind is right here, within us. We have as much of it to use as we believe in and embody. Can you believe in unlimited possibilities? The storehouse of nature is filled with infinite good, awaiting the touch of our awakened thought to spring forth into manifestation in our life. But the awakening must be within our thought. And that's the idea that it's all, whatever we can think of and think about. The days of manure in the street, somebody was beginning to open up to something greater, to the idea of a combustion engine coming about and a way of making that happen. It's already in existence. As they say, electricity existed in the days of Moses. Nobody was thinking about it. And as life has progressed, those have evolved and come forward. And that's what Holmes is telling us here, that it's all there awaiting our awakened thought to come into manifestation. The word that we speak is the law of our lives, and nothing hinders its operation but ourselves. But ourselves. We may use the creative word for whatever purpose we desire, and this word becomes the law of the thing for which was spoken. We are given the power to sit in the midst of our lives and direct their activities. Isn't that exciting? Yay! Imagine if we didn't have that. I mean, many of us object to wearing face masks. That's something we're being asked to do, and we're complying with. But we can direct the activities of our lives. If we've got resistance to wearing a face mask, I mean, imagine if you couldn't do everything else that you like and choose to do. So what are you saying? What are you saying? Pay attention. Pay attention to what you're saying, to what you're thinking. Make it part of your spiritual practice to listen this week, to really become an observer. What are you thinking? Catch and release. What am I saying? Ooh, that's not the way I want to go. I want to just move this conversation a different way. How can I say that in a more empowering way? How can I respond to this with more kindness and love and compassion than with resistance and anger? That's how we change it, one step at a time, being present to ourselves. So I want to look at our spiritual practices for this week and remind you to sign up for, I've renamed it, Mindful Mondays. Mindful Mondays. And what that is an email that I send out to those of you that register for it that comes on Monday morning, and it is basically our quotes from the talk. It's the practicing the principles for the talk, and that you can take with you then in hard copy form or on your computer to be able to work with throughout the week. So it's a way of taking today's message and walking your talk with it and doing the practices. So the sign-up sheet is out on the counter. Those of you looking at us online this morning, if you would like to sign up for that, just send an email to scottsdalecsl.org. Yep, and we'll pick that up and get you on the list there as well too. So the first one is create a circle story. No, create a story circle. Create a story circle. I knew that didn't sound right. And join with at least one other person. More is better, but at least one other person. Make it fun and have story time once a week. It doesn't really matter what you're talking about, okay? It just matters that you're telling a story. It can be something that happened in the past, something that's happening right now, some fantasy you've got of what you're manifesting for the future. Whatever it is, you tell the story. The other person that you're in the circle with is going to listen, and they might make some notes about the negative things that you say, about the not so positive things you say, about how you're telling that story, so that you both can learn from that ways to reframe and create new language in expressing yourself and what happens in your life. When I was a very young child, I had a bad habit of saying, a lot when I would be telling stories, and then, and then, and then this happened, but, and it seemed to bother my dad a lot, and I was very young, and I remember sitting at the dinner table one night, and he asked me about my day, and I started launching into some big story, and his first time I said, he went, you know what? And I stopped, and I got talking again, and and he goes, you know what? And then it just got to be, every time I would say, he'd go, he'd interrupt me, annoying, even as a little kid. But it broke the habit. It broke the habit of speech that I had. Now, if anybody's ever been in Toastmasters, they have that stupid clicker, right? Yeah, annoying. Every time you say, delay, they click you. It breaks us of the habit. So that's sort of this idea of becoming a badass. I'm stealing that from last month's book study. And it can be somebody in your circle. It can be somebody that is not in your circle, but it has to be someone that is patient and kind. And you have to have an agreement amongst yourselves to have that conversation, because it is annoying to be interrupted. Now, this is not in the story circle. That's where you listen to the whole story and then you offer feedback. This one, being the badass, is interrupting, being annoying, to catch people, to have them be able to change their story. But it's got to be an agreement, okay? It's got to be an agreement. And it's got to be done with kindness. And it's got to be done with kindness. So the third point is your 50 empowering words. Your 50 empowering words. Create a list of 50 personally empowering words or phrases that you can use to begin to incorporate into your everyday conversations. If we're going to change our language, we need some guidelines, don't we? We need some guidelines. We need some new words to be able to change that conversation a little bit, to change the way that we, instead of saying, I can't, I won't. I can't, I won't. I can't sort of says, I don't have the ability to do it. Whereas I won't says, I have a choice. I won't do that. I won't do that. So it's finding those words. Now, I found this list of 50 empowering words that on a website online the other day, and these may or may not resonate with you, but find words and phrases that resonate with you, that have meaning for you. Compelling, exciting, discovery, results, love, release, peaceful, exuberant, thriving, purposeful, whatever they might be. Find 50 words and then review those 50 words or phrases 3 times a day. Get them to become programmed in your mind. Reprogram your brain. Reprogram your thinking. So again, what are you saying? What are you saying? If your life isn't just perfectly perfect in every area, use these tools to help you clean up your language. If it is, I would love to see you after service and have a conversation. And I want to close with a quote today from Les Brown, who says, "Be careful of your self-talk. Be careful of your self-talk without monitoring your mind and your mouth. The majority of what you say to yourself can poison your attitude, weaken your spirit, and drain your energy. Be aware that left unchecked, the negative storyteller in your brain can shut down your faith, amplify your fears, and activate a spirit of hopelessness and self-sabotage. Turn off and banish the automatic negative thoughts that will ruin your life if you let them. Learn to keep your heart open and love yourself unconditionally. The universe is on your side, just waiting for your next move. Celebrate what's working in your life and focus on the positive and give thanks for what you have." So it is. Would you join me in a prayer? Recognizing the one power, the one life, the one presence, God. That which is enthroned as all, that which is the substance of which all is made manifest, that which works through me as an expression of it, through the power of my words. And I know through each and every one in this room and listening online and that it is through the power of their words that Spirit works in our lives as the law of our lives, done unto us as we believe. And so knowing this day, I speak my word for and about each of us, knowing and claiming and accepting that that abundance that we seek is ours, that any limiting beliefs are transformed into positive acceptance, receipt, awareness, and that love abounds, that peace reigns, that careers are stable and manifesting more good, more joy, more enthusiasm, more creativity. I know that health is our divine nature. It is who and what we are. It is who and what each and every person on this planet is, and we allow that to manifest as us, as we believe. We believe that we are the magnificence of spirit in form, in expression, and as such we are whole, perfect, and complete. I know this day for anyone that has anything on their heart that they would lift into this prayer this day, that whatever needs to be revealed is revealed or clarified or made manifest in their life right here, right now. For it exists in the divine substance, and we now allow it to take form this day, right here, right now. So it's with a grateful heart, filled with joy and thanksgiving, that I release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, knowing that it is done. And we release it, let it go, and affirm together. And so it is.